Melissa Jenkins, and my presentation today will be about Netflix. Netflix was founded in 1999 by one Reed Hastings, as seen on the right. Originally, Netflix only delivered DVDs by mail, and that was the original idea that they came up with. However, it eventually expanded into what we know it as today, which is the live internet streaming, as well as the original Netflix productions that it seeds onto its live internet streaming. The organizational structure for Netflix is a limited public limited company, which according to our book is a corporation by another name. Within this company and its organization, the employees have a lot of free creative reign. Netflix as a company tries not to rein in its employees, and it thus gives them very few restrictions, such as unlimited vacation days and other such things that companies normally put a lot of restrictions on. However, this makes them a very cutthroat business because there is a catch. If your work is not the absolute best work, you will be asked to leave. There are 9 chief executives that I would like to mention today. The first of which is the founder and CEO, Reed Hastings. As we already mentioned him, he founded Netflix in 1999, and he currently brings in approximately $11 million in basic compensation annually. He's accompanied by the Chief Financial Officer, David Wells, who makes approximately $2.4 million in annual basic compensation. Kelly Bennett is also amongst this list, and she's the Chief Marketing Officer on Netflix. However, I do not have any data relating to her compensation. There's also the Chief Content Officer, Theodore Sarandros, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and he gets a basic compensation of $8.8 million annually. David Hyman is part of the General Counsel at Netflix and has been since 2002. He receives a basic compensation of approximately $2.4 million. Neil Hunt, the Chief Production Officer at Netflix, has been there since the absolute beginning of Netflix in 1999. He receives approximately $6.5 million annually. There's also the International Development Officer, Greg Peters, who receives $3.6 million annually, and last but not least, Leslie Kilgore, who is not actually a current Chief Marketing Officer, but she is the prior Chief Marketing Officer. She worked with Netflix from 2002 to 2012 and receives a basic compensation of $4 million as a board member. Now I would like to talk about the 9 members of the board of directors. The first of which is our CEO, Reed Hastings. The second of which is Leslie Kilgore, Richard N. Barton, Timothy M. Haley, George Battle, Ann Mather, J.C. Hogue, Bradford L. Smith, and Ann Sweeney. These guys all make up the board of directors at Netflix. 5 of the 9 members of the board of directors are independent directors, the head of which is Jay Hogue, which means that he has extra responsibilities, including presiding over the board and meeting when the chair is over board meetings when the chair member is not present for any given group. It also means that the board of directors can essentially allocate different tasks to him as necessary. There are 3 subgroups in the board of directors: the audit, the compensation, and the nominating and governance groups. Each group has its own chair Ann Mathers is the audit chair, the compensation chair is Timothy Haley, and the nominating and governance chair is Jay Hogue. Next, we will talk about the financial standing at Netflix. The total stockholders' equity is approximately $1,333,561 according to Yahoo Finance. Their current and total liabilities are $2 million and $4 million respectively, and their income taxes for this past year in 2015 were approximately $19,200. Now please understand that the $19,200 in taxes is actually quite lower than what their previous years were in 2013 and 14. This tells me that they had less income to tax, meaning that they weren't doing quite as well in reference to profit in 2015. The leading competitors, according to Yahoo Finance, are Best Buy and Amazon, none of which have filed for bankruptcy, though a lot of Best Buy's direct competitors, such as Radio Shack, have filed for bankruptcy. Netflix has also never filed for bankruptcy. The Netflix PE ratio right now is $338.54, whereas Amazon's is $444.18, and Best Buy's is only $12.22. In reference to this, Netflix is doing great against some of its competitors, and this also implies that, according to Yahoo Finance, that there is a potential probability for growth in the future. Currently, the stock valuation using multiple stock valuation calculation, we are at $94.79, which is currently what is listed on Yahoo Finance for Netflix. Next, we will move on to the shareholders and analysts. There are 1,095 shareholders, 2/3 of which are institutions, and a little under 1/3 of which are mutual fund holders, which is the majority of the remaining third. The top shareholder is VA College of America Growth Fund, holding approximately 3.5% of the shares, which is about 13 million shares according to the FINRA. There are currently no preferred stock available for Netflix, though, so all of their stock is common stock. And according to Analyst Review, they have an average rating for Netflix at 3.3 with a 5-year growth forecast of 62.3%. Of the 12 analysts listed, approximately 6 are saying that you need to buy Netflix now, 4 are saying sell it, 1 is saying hold on to it, and 1 is saying that they underperform. Unlike its competitors, Netflix does not currently pay dividends, and therefore we don't have any kind of data in that aspect to really compare to its competitors. However, its beta is currently 0.94, which would make it considered to be an average asset, and in fact would be considered to be slightly less risky than a lot of the other than the average common stock, just because it's slightly below 1, which is the average. However, this does mean that there would be less of a risk premium, because the higher the risk, the higher the beta, the higher the risk, and therefore the higher the risk premium. Over the past few years, Netflix has endeavored into making partnerships and agreements with a couple of different companies, including Dish, NetGem, and TELUS. Dish has officially partnered up with Netflix and worked with Netflix to make Dish the first major television provider to offer Netflix functionality, which is unheard of nowadays. NetGem is a company that provides similar services as Netflix, just throughout different parts of the world, and Netflix is actually one of its providing platforms for the Nordic and Latin America portions of the said NetGem platforms. The last corporation is the TELUS Corporation, and they are the creators of the Optic TV, where you can actually stream Netflix directly, thanks to the Netflix partnership that has been created. Next, we will move on to historical performance. As of December 2010, the stock prices were at $25.10, where over the course of the next couple years, over the course of the next year, they fell down to $9.90, which is the lowest that it went. By 2012, it had risen back up to $13.23, which was not much of a rise. But over the next 3 years, it actually rose and peaked at $115.03, and then it started to decline again, leading us to our current price at $94.79. Netflix has a good range of maturity dates in reference to its bonds. The closest maturity date is in 2017 with an 8.5 coupon rate and no current sales price. The next one after that is listed for February 1st of 2021, and the furthest out bond maturity date is in February of 2025. The credit rating according to Moody for Netflix is B1 and a B+ from S&P. This is actually considered a lower end grade category, meaning that it's not top of the line by any means. There's actually high grade and medium grade above this grade. And in fact, because it is a B instead of a BB according to S&P or a BA according to Moody, it actually means that it's at the lower end of the low grade category. So honestly, these are on the verge of being considered junk bonds. Lastly, we will cover capital structure and internet structure and initial public offering. Netflix current debt to equity ratio is 1.54 according to Yahoo Finance, and its time interest earned is calculated by dividing EBIT by interest. Essentially, this ratio is 2.70. It means that Netflix, if it absolutely had to, could pay its debt off 2 times over, which is good, but at the same time, this ratio could be a lot higher, and that would imply that Netflix would be a lot better off. However, we can see from this 2.07 ratio that Netflix isn't doing too poorly. Its initial public offering back in 2002 was $15 per share, which is a fairly good starting price. However, it offered 5.5 million shares in its initial public offering. So though they priced low, they also did a lot of shares to get themselves started. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful summer.